Well, Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre gets a chance to regain a seat in Parliament today. He's running in a by-election in the Alberta riding of Battle River-Crowfoot after having failed to win his own seat during the last election. And for a closer look at how the race might play out and lessons for the party moving forward, we've reached Fred DeLorey, chair of North Star Public Affairs. He's also a former national campaign manager for the Conservative Party of Canada during the 2021 election and an advisor to Stephen Harper. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what do you expect to see today in the by-election?
Well, look, this is the safest Conservative seat in Canada. You could literally run a mail or a blue mailbox and win, and that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a very, very easy victory for him. Typically, we don't even run full campaigns in a riding like that because it's just such a layup. 4 out of 5 voters there vote Conservative every election, but at the same time, though, Poilievre's taken nothing for granted. He's run a full campaign. He's spent the max that's allowed under the Elections Act. And we've had Alberta caucus all coming in and out, knocking on doors and trying to pull vote out. But this is going to be a layup for Poilievre tonight.
So when you look at this by-election compared to the federal election, how has Poilievre's messaging changed compared to when he was, running in Carleton?
It's interesting. There hasn't, he's shown different signs at times of different messaging coming through, but then last week he had a press conference in Saskatchewan where he was very back to the old, like just attack type message and a bit over the top. He's been kind of just stuck on that type of tone right now, which I'm not sure is going to help grow the party outside of the base that we currently have.
And in the role of official opposition, are those focus points sticking, or do you think there needs to be a pivot at all in terms of his strategy going forward? It sounds like you think that does need to be the case.
Yeah, I think the big issue. I think one of the things that that people have problems with right now with Poilievre in terms of internally with the party is he doing that research to figure out, does he need to change his message? Does he need to change his tone and how he delivers his message? We lost this last election. There's been some good things that came from the election. We got over 40% of the vote. We've added dozens of new MPs, but ultimately we failed to form government. We lost for the 4th straight time. What work is going in to figure out what worked and what didn't? I remember in 2004, I worked for Stephen Harper back then, and we lost the 2004 election. We put a lot of effort into figuring out what worked and what didn't, and finding that path to victory. You have to do the work. We couldn't just go into the next election and try to run the 2004 campaign again in 2006. We had to adapt, and we had to figure out the right tone and message, and we did. And Harper was incredibly successful, and he went on to govern for almost a decade. Right now, the Conservative Party does not seem to be taking those lessons in terms of like applying what worked and what didn't, and figuring out what is the path for Poilievre to become Prime Minister. It feels like we're just going to try to run it back and run the same campaign we just did, which that just never works.
So there is a leadership review happening in January, coming up in, I guess, just about half a year or so, just under. So what kind of leadership discussions are happening within the party right now when it comes to Pierre Poilievre's leadership of the party?
What's interesting, I would say when we just lost the election in the spring, I would say he was pretty well a lock to lead us into the next election. The party membership and everyone was quite united behind and thought, he could grow from this and become better. But there are growing rumblings and people are getting frustrated that nothing seems to be happening, nothing seems to be changing. And Poilievre and his team are out there going around saying that, they ran a great campaign and it was, there was nothing that they could have done differently, which is just ridiculous. It's a terrible approach to take. And you need to learn from your mistakes and grow from it. And if you're not going to learn from what you just went through, we're doomed to lose a 5th straight election next time.
And back to tonight, if he does win, like you said, it seems like it's pretty much a lock because he's running in the most conservative riding in Canada. But how much, will the margin of victory play into, how much will it indicate, his popularity? If he wins by maybe 80, with 85% of the vote, maybe that's the thing. But maybe if he only gets, say 60% of the vote, does that say something? And will that play into his, leadership review in January?
Well, there's only risk. There's no positive to come from it. Even if he gets 90%, like we get close to that every time anyway. He's not showing any of us that he can win in Ontario, Quebec, or Atlantic Canada. Those three regions where we're weak, and we do very, very well in the West. We're very strong there. Running up the score there doesn't give us more seats. It doesn't help us form government, which is the ultimate goal. So there's risk if he underperforms. That will call into question, but even if he knocks it out of the park there, it's not going to doesn't really tell us anything. It doesn't set us up for victory in the next federal election at all.
Hmm. So if Pierre Poilievre wins tonight, he goes into his leadership review come January. With either outcome, whether they decide to keep him around as leader or to kick him out and get someone else going. With either outcome, what do you think is the best outcome for the party going forward?
Look, I've always been a believer that leaders should get two cracks at it. I think we can learn from it. Andrew Scheer only had one shot, and Aaron O'Toole only had one shot. I think both could have benefited from a second campaign when you approach things differently. It's very, very hard to lead a national campaign, and you're doing it as a rookie. Harper took him two shots at it for him to be able to win. So I think there's benefit in keeping a leader and allowing them to grow. But that goes back to the thing, though. Does Poilievre want to grow? Does he want to learn from the mistakes that he made in the last election? That is, to me, the important question. And if he doesn't show any growth, then I think there's going to be a continued weakening of his leadership.
And what will be a sign of growth to you?
Pardon me?
What will be a sign of growth to you going forward?
Well, look, just showing me that you've actually done the work, that you're doing a postmortem on this campaign, that you're trying to figure out. Stop going around acting as if we won the election. We didn't. Carney's prime minister, not a conservative. There's no conservative government federally. So to me, it's about admitting that we lost and then figuring it out and coming up, just showing. You don't have to go and tell all the conservatives, "Here's our plan for the next election." You shouldn't do that. But you should let us believe that you have a plan. Because right now it feels like we have no plan. And you have no plan, you plan to fail.
Well, Fred, thanks so much for your time this morning. Certainly going to be interesting watching the results roll in tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I can't wait to see what these numbers look like.
That was Fred DeLorey, chair of North Star Public Affairs. He was also national campaign manager for the Conservative Party of Canada during the 2021 election and an advisor to Stephen Harper.